Okay. We have everyone here. This regular business meeting of the Edmond School District Board of Directors for June 8th, 2021 is called to order. First, we'll have our land acknowledgement. Dr. Balderas, would you please administer the land acknowledgement?
Yes, thank you, President Kilgore. We acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Snohomish people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes, who since time immemorial have taken care of, hunted, fished, and gathered on these lands. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and we honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. By acknowledging these homelands, we commit to working with tribal nations to further the education aims they have identified in our classrooms and schools. Thank you.
Next, we have our flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we have approval of the agenda. Would someone like to make a motion?
This is Ann. I move to approve.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda for this evening. Are there any amendments?
Yes, so thank you, President Kilgore. Under new business, it's item 6. It's not a single read. Approve high school general chemistry and science materials. It's actually a first read. We apologize for the error. That is a first read this evening, not a single read.
So would someone like to amend tonight's agenda? That's how we would do it?
This is Ann. I move that we amend the new business item number 6 to have it be a first read as opposed to a single read.
I second that. It's Nancy.
It's been moved and seconded to amend the agenda as discussed. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment to change the single reading to a first reading for the chemistry curriculum, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The amendment passes. We now have an amended agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote to approve the agenda as amendment. All those in favor of approving the agenda for tonight as amended, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? And the motion passes and the agenda is approved. Next, we have approval of the school board minutes for May 18th, our study session, and May 25th, our business meeting. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the May 18th study session minutes and the May 25th business meeting minutes.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for May 18th and May 25th. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes for May 18th and May 25th, 2021, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The motion passes and the minutes.
I apologize. Yeah, I abstain as I was not
Oh.
present at the May 25th business meeting.
Thank you. And so that for the record. Okay, so the motion passes and the minutes for May 18th and May 25th are approved. Next, we have our public comment section. The public comment item on the agenda is an opportunity for citizens to address the school board. Items brought forward during this portion of the agenda will not be acted upon by the board at this time. Questions may also be referred to the superintendent or staff for examination and later response. And I believe that the number of comments we have can be read in the time allotted. So I'll go ahead and start us off with a few and then pass it on. So our first comment comes from Nicole Harold, and this is on inclusivity policy and support our students as they celebrate Pride. Thank you for your clear and open support of Pride Month in the Edmond School District. As it says on the district website, we encourage our schools, staff, families, and students to show their pride and allyship throughout the year and recognize June as 2S LGBTQIA+ Pride Month. I am grateful that the district is engaging in this work and is, quote, is committed to supporting students and families as we navigate the persistent institutionalized norms that impact our 2S LGBTQIA+ students, families, and staff. And that's a quote from the webpage. As we continue to grow in this work, I encourage you to stand up for our students and families as they express and celebrate themselves this month. And thank you again for your support as we celebrate with students and families in schools. Our next comment comes from Brianna Valencia, and this is on Pride support. Dear members of the school board, Dr. Balderas and Dr. Vergara, thank you for your clear and open support of Pride Month in the Edmond School District. As it says on the website, we encourage our schools, staff, families, and students to show their pride and allyship throughout the year and recognize June as 2S LGBTQIA+ Pride Month. I am grateful that the district is engaging in this work and is, quote, committed to supporting students and families as we navigate the persistent institutionalized norms that impact our 2S LGBTQIA+ students, families, and staff. And this is also from the website. As we continue to grow in this work, I hope that you will stand up for our students and families as they express and celebrate themselves this month. Our next comment comes from Bridget Halfaker. I apologize if I've mangled that, who also expresses support. I am going to go ahead. This is exactly the same comment as the previous two. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that for the record. The next comment comes from Maria Scott, and this is also on Pride Week. Members of the school board, I got an email from a coworker today informing me of the pushback the district is receiving from supporting Pride Week. I am hurt that this community that was so supportive of BLM is pushing back against our LGBTQ+ youth and normalizing these conversations. As an educator, I recognize that many of our students come from very different religious backgrounds. I recognize that some people believe a person chooses their sexual orientation, but science tells us that our LGBTQ+ community members didn't choose their orientation. It's just how they are. Just like we as a district have been working to educate ourselves and our community about BLM, we are now in the position of educating ourselves and our community about LGBTQ+. By doing this work, we are celebrating our diversity and hopefully making the world a slightly safer place for our LGBTQ+ youth. Thank you for your clear and open support of Pride Month in the Edmond School District. As it says on the district website, we encourage our schools, staff, families, and students to show their pride and allyship throughout the year and recognize June as 2S LGBTQIA+ Pride Month. I am grateful that the district is engaging in this work. And they once again go on to quote the website. As we continue to grow in this work, I encourage you to stand up for our students and families as they express and celebrate themselves in this month. And thank you again for your support as we celebrate with students and families in schools. Where am I? 6. This comes from Kevin Sang, who writes on the topic of remote versus live meetings. Since the beginning of the pandemic, Zoom has become the face of online work and school meetings for the past 15 months. Now that the vaccines have been rolling out and distributed, the pandemic, I'm actually quite sad about how it appears that 90 to 95% of the district will be doing away with Zoom next year and beyond, or essentially gone. I think it should be retained at some capacity as it can reduce the transportation and location burden. With Zoom, no need to drive 6 miles or 15 minutes to Edmonds e-learning academy for live one-on-one help for 5 minutes with a sequences and series or matrix problem. Just make an appointment and hop on Zoom and done. Too sick to go to school or otherwise absent and unable to attend? Just join class virtually. On vacation, stay in touch by joining class virtually. I heard of students joining class from the Bahamas and Egypt. Even when having the assignments available online, I think having the live instruction time is absolutely essential or even necessary for all. The point is, I hope the district IT department can find some way to preserve live virtual meetings options to some capacity. The next comment comes from Julie Hill on LGBTQ. Thank you for your support of Pride Month and LGBTQ rights, exclamation point. And I'll read one more. The next comment comes from Annika Holder, support for Pride Month. Dear Edmonds School District board members, I am reaching out as a community member, wife of a teacher in the district, and member of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. I appreciate you using your space and platform to support and teach about Pride Month this June. Thank you for your support. However, I was appalled to see how many hateful comments were left on this content on your social media platforms just yesterday. The comments were left up for quite some time, and the only initial responses they received were from other community members taking a stand. In fact, it took community members directly calling for you to remove them for any action to be taken. When you create these spaces, it is also your job to ensure they are safe for everyone, especially those you create for it. However, because of these hateful comments, this space has been removed. We now have no space to express our joy. I'm frustrated and angry that the district has not taken a stronger stance against hate speech, instead letting community members do it for you. The lack of action speaks volumes. I'm incredibly grateful to the students, teachers, and staff who created the wonderful Pride content you have shared on your page. Please take a stronger stance to protect them and others in your spaces, both online and in person. Without your support, this work is falling on our teachers, parents, and community members who do not hold the same position or privilege. Thank you. And would someone like to take the next comments?
I'll go ahead and read them.
Thank you.
Janet Bowers on policy 4218 says, on August 25th, 2020, located on page 102, I submitted a public comment addressing some of the challenges in utilizing a language line as the primary means of communication when an interpreter is required at individualized education program or IEP or evaluation meetings. Having worked in a few schools and districts in California prior to moving to Washington, I was able to experience the common practice of having the same liaison or interpreter to utilize at IEP or evaluation meetings when my families did not speak English. When I started working for Seattle Public Schools in 2013, their system at the time allowed families and special educators the opportunity to work with the same liaison or interpreter who would also be present for IEP and evaluation meetings. When I started working for Edmonds School District in 2016, I was surprised to find out that we utilized a language line for family communication, but I was very disappointed to find out that we were discouraged from requesting the same interpreter for IEP and evaluation meetings. While policy 4218, which is Family Language Access Plan, appears to be heading in the right direction, there is still room for improvement. As we continue to discuss matters of equity, equality, inclusivity, and family/community engagement, please consider looking at policy that will improve our communication efforts, specifically for our families who have children with special needs requiring interpretation services. Such actions would also benefit our special educators in having a more authentic means for family engagement. It makes a difference. Bryn Ward leaves the next comment, and it's on the topic of age inappropriate curriculum. Good evening, school board and fellow parents. I admit that this is the first school board meeting I have attended since our children joined the district in 2013. When we chose our home, we specifically sought out the Edmonds area for its school district. It was well respected and received great reviews from friends. I assumed and believed until recently that the Edmonds School Board, superintendent, and teachers had the best interest of our children in mind and did not feel as though attending meetings was necessary. Recent actions by the district and board have led me to believe otherwise. Last week, I hit my limit with the read aloud of Call Me Max. The reading of this book and the agenda to spread transgenderism within the school district is unacceptable to her. Young elementary kids should not have to even contemplate gender roles, sexual identification, and sexual orientation. The subject is complicated and not understood by even the most educated mental health professionals. While we can teach kids to be kind and accept one another and be kind, it is not necessary for them to get a lesson on transgenderism in elementary school. As a parent, this is a conversation I get to wade through with my child if it ever arises. The school does not have the right to tell me how to parent and how to approach the subject. There should be a distinct separation between the values a parent teaches their own children and what they learn at school. Schools are meant to educate academically. Parents exist to guide their children through life. It is not necessary nor age appropriate for elementary children to understand the ins and outs of sexual orientation and identification. Whatever happened to kids being kids? While I know there are legitimate cases, it seems as though it is becoming a popular trend that is driving tweens and teens to change their gender identity without having any prior propensity or gender confusion. In addition, teens are not entirely brain developed and cannot fully conceptualize their decisions. There are many cases cited where teens made a decision that was propelled by schools and social media only to regret their decision in adulthood. And that's the end of the comments.
Thank you. Next, we have our consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve.
This is Karen. I second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda for tonight. Is there any discussion?
I just wanted to make one comment on the personnel actions. I noticed under the retirements, a number of people who I've had the honor and pleasure of working with over many years, who've done wonderful service to the district. And I just, without naming names, wanted to wish them all a wonderful retirement and thank them for their service to the district.
Are there any other comments? Okay, then I will call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The motion passes and the consent agenda is approved. Next, we have our celebration, and it's a very special one. Take it away.
So thank you, board of directors and student advisors. And tonight's I'd like to really congratulate our student advisors for all their commitment to our district, to our board, our community, and want to call out Andia, Kai, Ratika, Isabel, and Aurelia who are on the call for all the work that you've done to help support and provide feedback that's so valuable from the end user, as I call it, you, the students. That's why we're here. Why we're here is because of you. And to be able to hear from you in terms of how decisions and dialogues that we have really impact you as students. And it's been incredibly invaluable. And I would like the board to really weigh in as well. I do have tokens of appreciation. They're in my desk. So I will be meeting with you at your school sites and providing that when opportune. So, but really just want to thank you for your commitment to our district and wish you the very best and for the summer. So, and glad to have you here. So turn it over to President Kilgore and the rest of our board of directors.
Well, I will go ahead and speak first. I just can't thank you enough for how much insight you gave to us this year, how much you showed up, how much you were able to help us navigate this incredibly difficult year, and to lend the student voice, which is so important when we're making decisions. And I wish you all just the very best in your future endeavors as leaders and wonder kids going forward.
I'll second Deborah's comments that you guys have been great. It's been such a difficult year and really unfortunate for you people that you had to attend an entire year of school board meetings on Zoom, because it's certainly not the most ideal way to do a meeting. But the fact that you guys have been so willing to speak up and give us your comments and opinions on things, I'm totally amazed in this Zoom culture that you've been able to do that so well. And I just appreciate everything you guys have done. So thank you so much for being board reps.
I'll give that a third. You guys have been fabulous. All 5 of you have been at every meeting. You've participated. You've made great, insightful comments. You've given us your perspective during a really difficult year that's so unusual, and hope we never have one like this again. And let me just say, if any of you need a letter of recommendation for anything, I am more than happy to write you one. I write really nice letters, and I would write you great letters. I wish you the very best in your future. You're obviously leaders, and you're going to make a huge difference in making this world a better place.
This is Ann. Just wanted to again say thank you. I sure hope that whatever the future holds for you, wherever you're going, whatever you're going to be doing, that you will consider maintaining involvement in civic endeavors, whether it's on a city council or a library board or a parks board or whatever, because we need people who are interested in the community and are willing to put themselves forward. And you all have had really great comments. You've backed it up, your perspectives. And it's been a pleasure working with you. And I hope this was a good experience for you and something that will motivate you in the future to continue to be out there, let your voice be heard, and join in the community in whatever way in the future you find to give back. And we certainly thank you for giving back to us in the Edmond School District.
I'm echoing all of everything that my esteemed colleagues have said, and I really want to express my gratitude that you have shown us those things in your comments, what's working, and also speaking truth on when things are not working. So it's very powerful for you to continue, and I encourage you to continue to speak your truth. And I'm just so thrilled, and I'm actually very sorry that we're coming to an end, because I always look forward to engaging with you on Zoom also. So please continue to come to our meetings if you wish. And thank you so much.
President Kilgore, I wonder if the students would like to make any comments as well.
You are invited to do so.
I just want to say this has been a wonderful experience for me. This is the first year I've been on this board, and I've definitely learned a lot about how to be honest when in high pressure situations, when answering questions that really do matter for the students. So I've had a great time, and I really appreciate all of your comments and letting me be a part of this team. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree with what Kai said. Thank you so much for having us and on this team and really listening to what we have to say. Like, it feels so good to know that, I mean, our board members are really listening to our students. So thank you. And I really hope I can be a part of this group next year again. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add on to that as well, it's been an interesting year with all the different ups and downs and all the different changes in the district. But thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be a part of the board and give our insight. It's really been an amazing experience.
Yeah, to echo my fellow student advisors, it's been a weird year, an extremely whack year. To be able to do all of this over Zoom and just everything that you guys have done to adapt. And I know that for the board as well, that it has been a crazy year to try to navigate and to have so much on your shoulders. But I just appreciate the candor, the honesty, the conversations, and just like allowing us to have that voice at the table, because I think one of the most empowering things that a school board that is designed to be helping the students can do is really bring those students in and truly listen to them and give them a voice at the table that they know will actually make an impact going forward. And I definitely saw that this year throughout the time that we had to work together. And I'm looking forward to what comes next, because I have one more year, fortunately, with the district, and just looking forward to seeing what else comes out of this. And I'll certainly be following everything that's going on. So thank you guys for everything. And yeah.
I agree with my fellow advisors. I thought it was fascinating and really interesting to see like the behind the scenes and the really gears that shift our district. I really learned a lot, including leadership skills and presentation wise. And yeah, thank you so much for letting us have this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, students. And I agree. I didn't think of it, but I am also available for letters of reference, along with probably any of our good communicators on the board. Okay. Thank you.
So student presentation, and we're going to have a presentation on Chase Lake Community Garden by Principal Silver and student Jackson and Nico. So I'm gonna, if I can introduce Principal Silver, and he can lead this presentation. So thank you for being here, President Sean.
Thank you, Dr. Balderas, and thank you for having us. My name is Shahan Silver, and I am the principal of Chase Lake Community School. And I'd like to introduce two outstanding students who are leaders and stewards of our garden: Max Eldridge, who is in the 6th grade, and Nico Aguilar, who's in the 5th grade. Max and Nico, please turn on your cameras and remember to unmute when it's your turn to speak. Max, you are first up.
6 years ago, Beth Black, a retired 3rd grade teacher who was beloved by so many at Chase Lake, wrote grants to fund our garden. After the garden was funded, she organized work parties for families and our community partners to build our garden into what you see today. For many years, her work supported our garden by making it an outdoor classroom with the goal of giving access to clean, nutrient-dense, and healthy produce across our entire community. Each grade takes care of a certain section or raised bed in the garden. They are responsible for planting, watering, weeding, and harvesting. When all the planting is done, the flowers have bloomed, and the vegetables are ripe, we work to distribute all of the produce among our community. This is an area where we see the most potential. We hope to grow our capacity to bring fresh, delicious, culturally responsive and produce to our students and families. In addition, we hope to sustain Beth Black's vision for decades to come.
Thank you so much, Max. Nico, you're now up.
Over the years, we have established and sustained strong community partnerships in support of our garden. We have worked with the Snohomish County Master Gardeners, Edmonds Floritum Garden Club, Edmonds Lutheran Church, Farmer Frog, and the Snohomish County League of Women Voters. You may also have heard that our garden was featured site on Edmonds in Bloom Tour. Guests were treated to live cello music and garden fresh appetizers. All of these community players help us build, maintain, and eventually expand our garden. Looking forward, we really hope to strengthen our community partnerships and continue to be an inclusive resource for all. If you're ever in the area, please don't hesitate to stop by the garden and harvest something nutritious, delicious, and grown with love. We would now like to share the video so you can see our garden and hear from some of the students who will take care of it.
Sherelle,
Are we?
we get the radio up if we could.
In just a moment.
Thank you, sir.
Excellent presentation. Thank you, students. I'm anxious to go visit the garden.
What section, what vegetables do you grow? Does your grade grow this year?
We grow kale, beets, and I think some green onions. I know there's some lettuce in there too, so.
Are you both in the same grade?
No.
No. What grade, what section of the garden does your grade have this year?
We did the tomatoes, my grade. I think we did the tomatoes. And we did a lot of weeding though. A lot of weeding.
I know about that.
Did the master gardeners give tutorials, or were they just more like consulting? You mentioned that in some of the work with them, did they give any input that was helpful to you?
They're pretty much advisors. They just told us what to do and how to do it.
Okay, here we go.
Here's a video.
Hi, I'm Miss Khalil. I'm the 5th grade teacher here at Chase Lake, and I'm in charge of our wonderful community garden. The goal for our garden is really to teach our students about resiliency and ways that they can grow their own food, and not only grow their own food, but bringing it back to their communities. Last summer, we had a great opportunity in being able to share all of our amazing produce with families that were picking up meals, and we hope to continue that as we continue moving forward with our garden, expanding it, and making sure that we're offering foods that are culturally relevant to the families that we serve.
What do you like about the garden, Kate?
I like that the garden has been here for a while, so it's like you can plant something a while ago and then now it's grown like all the way nearly, and so it has sentimental value.
Excellent, thank you so much. If you came back in 10 to 20 years, what do you hope will change about the garden?
I wouldn't want much to change, but maybe to grow more fruits, because now there's a lot of vegetables.
Why do you think this garden is special to the Chase Lake community?
I think it's special because
It's something to do other than just learning all day, and it's something that we get to do ourselves. Rather than having a teacher do it, we get to do something ourselves.
3. Hi, can you tell us your name?
My name is Carla.
Hi, Carla. And can you tell us a little bit about what you planted this year in the gardens?
Well, today what I planted today is I planted some seeds in our garden over there next to our class.
Excellent. And what is something that you really love or like about the garden here?
Well, what I like about the garden here is that when I see the plants when they actually grow, the days where I come here with my family, I would really like to pick up some plants.
What's your name?
Hi, my name is Rocky.
Hi, Rocky. Can you tell us a little bit why you like the garden?
I like the garden because we can come out here and it's nice and we grew it and no farmer grew it. You know, Chase Lake grew it.
Excellent, thank you. And if you came back to this garden in 10 or 20 years, what do you hope is different or better?
I wish the plants were a little taller so we can see them, what they would look like when they're fully grown.
And last question, why do you think this garden is special to Chase Lake and our community?
Because it's quiet, and if we want to come out here for extra recess and not have it so loud, we could come out here and work on the garden. And for the community, we can harvest it and enjoy the food.
What is your name?
My name is Mia.
Hi, Mia. Can you tell us a little bit about what you planted and how you planted it in the garden?
We planted seeds. We still don't know what they're gonna be, but my teacher said they could be flowers. They could also be like vegetables, and we planted them by making we first needed clay and then some soil, and then we made it flat into a pancake, and then we put seeds on top that we don't know what they're gonna be, and then my teacher said roll it into a ball, and then we rolled it into a ball, and then we went outside, and then my teacher said roll it into a ball one more time, and then she said at the count of 3 we're gonna throw it on the ground, and we threw it at the ground, and then then she said spread it all around.
Mia, are any of your favorite vegetables or fruits here in this garden?
I like the strawberry and the corn.
Excellent. Can you tell us your name?
My name is Max Eldridge. I'm at Chase Lake Elementary School, 6th grade, musical class.
Awesome. And what does the garden mean to you, Max?
What the garden means to me, since my grandma has a garden at home, I used to always just play in there and help her there, so it's kind of like bringing a little piece of my childhood to school.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. What do you hope happens to this garden in 10 or 20 years?
I hope it sort of carries on a legacy and is still here in 10 and 20 years. We could use this produce and give it to the cafeteria instead of buying from farmers markets, which is still good, but we have another alternative, which evidently is the garden.
Oh, that sounds like such a great idea. And why do you think that this garden is so special to the Chase Lake community, and what makes it special to you?
Like I said, what makes it special to me is the fact that this is basically a little part of my childhood. And what's special to the Chase Lake community is, well, it's like an experience. It's like you can use it as like a science experiment, you can use it for learning, you can use it for so many different things than just food. And this can provide other families with, food, with tomatoes, romaine, beets, kale, anything that we put in here.
Hi, what is your name?
My name is Lydia.
Awesome, Lydia. And can you tell us a little bit about why this garden is special to you?
It's special because it's a way that I can interact with other students and a way that I can do something special for the school.
Excellent, thank you. And if you came back to this garden in 10 or 20 years, what do you hope to see?
I hope to see that it's bigger and healthier.
Excellent. And what do you think makes this garden special to Chase Lake and our community?
Because it's a way that we can help the neighborhood by donating food, and because not a lot of schools get to have a garden.
Sergio, what do you like about the garden?
it's not just for some people, it's for everybody.
Excellent. What are you excited to eat out of the garden later this year?
The sugar snap peas we planted, because I've never tasted them.
3. Hi, can you tell me your name?
My name is Nico.
Awesome, Nico. And can you tell me a little bit about why you like this garden?
Well, I just like to work outside in the garden.
Excellent. If you came back to this garden in 10 or 20 years, what do you hope for it?
Maybe to get more planter boxes so it can be bigger.
Excellent. And why do you think this garden is special to Chase Lake and our community?
So people can get outside and just look at it and see what we've grown.
Man, what did you plant in the garden this year?
Sugar snap peas.
Are you excited to eat them?
Yes.
Can you tell me why?
Because they grew out of the plants and I'm happy to eat it.
Excellent. Thank you. Hi, what is your name?
My name is Owen Guzman.
Awesome. And what does the Chase Lake Garden mean to you?
It means to me that you can go outside, and I really like to garden because I garden with my mom, and I think it's a great way to like go outside and escape the classroom.
Excellent. And in 10 or 20 years, if you came back to this garden, what do you hope to find?
I think it'd be really cool to like see a lot more of these planter boxes, and just to see a lot of growth in the garden, to see like what new things are being planted.
Excellent. And why do you think this garden is so special to the Chase Lake community? Why is it special?
Because like it brings people together. Because like I personally really like to garden, and when I go out to garden with my class, I find other people that like to garden, and it's really cool to like make connections with people.
Bravo, that was wonderful. Now we can continue with our questions. I know we have many.
I have a question. So a couple of you talked in the video and talked about how this brought your childhood and things you've done at home to school. I'm wondering if you or other kids that you know started doing gardening at home as a result of what you were learning here at school in terms of creating a garden.
Yeah. My mom and me have started a garden out in the backyard and got some planter beds.
And what have you been planting in it?
Some lettuce, rhubarb, blueberries, all sort of stuff.
Sounds great. Thank you. Do you guys know other kids who've done that as well?
I usually, whenever I go to my grandma's house, I just help her with just around the house in general, but mostly in the garden. Usually rototilling, or putting fertilizer in there, or maybe even picking berries. We usually pick raspberries, potatoes, they're not berries, but yeah. A lot of blackberries too. Whenever we get marionberries, we usually make marionberry pie. It's one of the best pies I've ever had.
That sounds great. Thank you. I would love to have you come to my house and do a garden for me.
I have reasonable rates.
I have a question about.
You're definitely going to be a success.
I have a question about harvesting and distribution. Does everybody get a chance to try something from the garden? How much do you distribute every year?
Since the boys haven't unmuted, I'll just say that during the lunch distribution this year at school, when we had the drive-in lunches, we were able to pass out produce, And, our garden doesn't have a fence around it, so it's open to our community. So if our neighbors want to come in and get some herbs or pull some vegetables, we really welcome that, off school hours, of course. And we historically in the past too, we've harvested to make a soup in the fall for our back to school night.
Well, I love the name of the school, and I do live just up the street from Chase Lake and the school. So I'm going to be coming down to check out your.
I just want to add, I had the pleasure and honor of working with Beth Black over the years that she had worked in the district office as a TOSA for a while, as well as during all of her teaching time. And I think this is an amazing memorial to her, a wonderful legacy.
Thank you for sharing that, Nancy. This garden wouldn't have existed without Beth Black, and we plan to dedicate it to her.
I think it's wonderful. I didn't know she had helped make the garden, but it doesn't surprise me at all. It totally is her. And I miss her like everybody else.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your garden with us and all your hard work. And I am sure the next time I'm over at Chase Lake, I'm gonna take a look at your garden.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nico and Max. You did outstanding.
You really did. Thank you. And Nancy's hiring. Kidding. All right. Next, we have our reports. First is our reentry update, Dr. Balderas.
So thank you, President Kilgore. Get that up here. Again, as we round up the remainder of the school year, which we have graduations next week, and we have roughly 10, 11 days left of school here. We're winding down on our reentry update for this year, but we'll continue to do so. We do have a board meeting in July, provide an update for the board regarding where we're at status up for the fall, and also give you an update on summer school as well. Next slide, please. Again, we're in stage 4, and we'll complete this current school year in stage 4. Next slide, please. So here's our intent form final results. I'm not going to read them to the board, but they're right there in front of you. So roughly, again, the most important piece, well, they're all important, but to prepare, this gives us a good idea of what's needed to be to plan for as we continue our negotiations regarding working conditions with our associations. But we do have a good chunk of kids wanting to come back in person, and a reminder that we will be in person 5 days a week in our brick and mortar schools on our campuses, as well as be able to provide an online remote option for those students that wish to have that option and opportunity next year. So excited to have almost, again, 91% of our kids wanting to come back to our brick and mortar, and guidance continues to change from the Department of Health, and we'll continue and we'll work with the information we have at that time when we do open up in September. So next slide, please. Turn over to Greg Schwab, who's been working diligently with staff regarding graduation ceremonies, and I know that this is a shift. And again, we're excited because this happens next week, and hope to see a lot of the board directors at these graduations, and just look forward to seeing the kids crossing the finish line. That's one of the best parts of the job. So
yeah, this is very exciting that we get to plan for this. And so again, I just wanted to update you all that we're in the final planning stages. We've probably redrawn our graduation plans about 15 times, but we think we're closing in. We know that the expansion to 50% seating capacity means that we will now be able to make sure that each graduate gets 4 tickets for the family members to attend in person. We will have family members who attend ceremonies. We will need to assign them seating. and we will be required to wear face masks during the ceremony. And we may need to complete an attestation prior to the ceremony for all of our spectators. We're checking on that to see if that's in fact what we do have to do. There may be we may have a way to do it a little bit differently that won't require an attestation, but we are planning right now to do that. We also know that we will be able to have our band and choir perform live at our ceremonies. We were initially thinking that we wouldn't be able to do that. And so now we know that that will be able to happen. And finally, all of our ceremonies will be live streamed. We're continuing to plan to do live streaming for those families that are not able to attend, even with the expansion to 4 tickets per student. So again, we're very excited. The graduation ceremonies begin next Thursday night with Scriber Lake High School, and everything will happen at the stadium outdoors. I've checked the weather, Dr. Kadams, and it looks like we're going to have decent weather next week. So my plugs to the weatherman have paid off. So I'm hopeful that the weather forecast will hold. But again, just excited to be able to do this for our students, because again, this has been a long year, and it'll be so great to be able to send our seniors out on a positive note. So that's all I have for graduation updates.
Next slide, please. All right, I'll go through this pretty quickly. Some of it is similar to our last board meeting. So we do have some Department of Health updates. Again, to Dr. Valderas' point, we will be open for in-person learning 5 days a week next year. Face coverings for all students, staff, and visitors will be required. Social distancing, of course, is still required with recommendations of 3 feet to the greatest extent possible, 6 feet elsewhere. And so it's really, there's been some parameters put around that I think the Department of Health is looking at. It's really critical that we're able to get our kids. Anyone who wants to be in person is able to be in person. A piece that's been added today, we found out from the Department of Health that Governor Inslee has a press conference scheduled for tomorrow. I don't know the time, it hadn't been posted yet, but there could be a potential update that affects graduation ceremonies. So once that comes out tomorrow, or graduation ceremonies, or perhaps many other things. So once that comes out tomorrow, we'll get that information out to our community. And then lastly, from the Department of Health, a possible Pfizer vaccine approval for 6 to 11-year-olds by July, which is very exciting. And next slide. The Snohomish County picture, we've kept a close eye on this for many, many months now. So some good news, continued good news. We are continuing with a downward COVID-19 positive trend. 103 cases per 100,000 is the average over the past 14 days. A 6% positive test rate for all the tests that people are taking. Only 6% are coming back positive. I believe 2 weeks ago it was 7%. So that's a great trajectory as well. 328 positive cases in the past week. That also is down. In the district, we have at all of our school sites and all of our buildings, we have the curative tests, which I've talked about a few times. And we're doing 7 to 12 of those curative tests a day. So it's really been fantastic, because anybody who has any kind of symptoms, and you know that list of COVID symptoms, is wide and varied. So it's been a really nice thing for people to be able to take that test and get results within 24 hours and rule out that it's COVID. The positive test rate of all of those tests that we're doing is less than 1%. Our school trends statewide, or statewide and Snohomish County, of course, are down across the past 2 weeks. Our Edmonds School District trends are also significantly down. We have far less cases in our schools. The exception is seniors, and across the state and also in Snohomish County, they're seeing increase in seniors specifically as a class in positive rates, and it's probably because of end of year events. One piece that is important to remember is quarantines directed by DOH and Snohomish Health District will still apply to end of year events. So if you are quarantined because you've had a close contact, you won't be able to attend any end of year district events. There's been 504 days since the first confirmed case, and 1 in 20 residents in Snohomish County have been in a reported case of COVID-19. And our next slide. Well, if you look very closely here, you're going to see someone who is on our screen tonight that made an appearance Saturday at our vaccination clinic. Thank you, Dr. Kadams, for being there and helping tirelessly. And thank you to all of our volunteers who helped on Saturday. On June 5th at Meadowdale High School, we had a vaccination clinic that went from 9 to about 4 o'clock. There's a partnership with Seattle Visiting Nurses and DOH. 669 community members were vaccinated, which is incredible. And it was pouring down rain, and we had volunteers that stayed and helped and got all those people through the vaccination lines. It was mostly younger people. And we may have our next on-site clinic. We have a tentative plan for August, and that is really contingent upon the Pfizer vaccine being approved for 6 to 11-year-olds. If that happens, we will try to host, again, a mass vaccination clinic sometime in August. We're already working on the tentative plans. And so if that gets approved, we'll move towards that to give our community and an opportunity really closely to go get those vaccines. So a huge thank you to our volunteers, and they are listed there. And there's some of the pictures of people who came out and gave up their Saturday to help us get through this pandemic and get people vaccinated. So thank you. And thank you, Dr. Cadence. And next slide. Rob, summer learning.
Good evening, everyone. Rob Baumgartner, Executive Director of Student Learning. We, for our summer learning update, are providing an enrollment update. We thought this was important information to share with our directors as well as our community. As you can see, the numbers are looking really good. We, of course, are not able to hit our full targets. We know that there's certainly more students that would benefit from some of our programming, but as you can understand, finding staff to teach in those classrooms is challenging, but we continue to recruit, and we're actually very pleased that as of this time, we have about 800 students in our K-8 program, and as you can see, so far 720 students enrolled in our high school program. Those numbers for high school will continue to grow. We are working closely with counselors and other vehicles of communication to get more students to access the credit recovery opportunities available this summer. So we anticipate those numbers changing. One couple places that I did want to direct your attention are programs that we haven't spoken in great detail about at these updates. And the first of those is the third bullet under K-8. And it's actually not a K-8 program, it's an early learning program, which is our ECAP, which is our early childhood program here in the district. And we're fortunate that we were able to receive additional funding through our county partners and are having a summer program for 40 of our students in that. And it's really targeted at our students that will be entering kindergarten this year. So it's really exciting. That will be held at Lindale Elementary, and the outreach with those families is well underway. We also have a multilingual summer program as well. And this is an exciting opportunity where we are putting together programming at all of our sites that will specifically target those developing multilinguals that are in our system, and those students that are often newest in their road to acquiring English. And this will be a great sheltered experience where they'll get lots of opportunities to practice language. And we wanted to also include just a brief update that our special education ESY is extended school year programming. And this is just additional support that we can provide for students receiving special education services through the summer that will mitigate any learning loss and also support them in preparation for the upcoming school year. So very exciting about that. In our next update, we'll continue to report on those numbers and let you know how things progress. Next steps ahead for us are finalizing our hiring, putting together our staffing plans for each of our sites, and we'll also be putting together curriculum, and then of course a training opportunity, many training opportunities actually for our staff that'll be doing that work this summer. So really exciting, and just hats off to all of the staff across the district that have really been doing a ton of outreach with students and their families. Definitely teachers, course office staff, and our building administrators, as well as the administrative team we put together for summer school. So lots of hands involved in getting this project underway.
Hey, Rob, real quick, since we're hopefully fully opening next fall, are we going to be able to bring back any of our Jumpstart programs this year?
The plan right now is that we will do in-person jumpstart programming. So, we last year, there was so much going on in August that we really were unable to pull off a remote K jumpstart. And it's probably one of the regrets we have about things that we should have done. But we're definitely having plans to do an in-person jumpstart program this year. And the sort of addition to that will be that when we have a K-6 online program, we'll also have a jumpstart program for them, which that one, of course, will be remote. So those are things we can look forward to reporting in more detail upcoming.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Any comments from other directors or student advisors at all regarding reentry?
This is Ann. I was wondering on the numbers report, 3.3% leaving Edmonds. At our current at our 2019-2020 census of about 22,000 kids, that's a little over 700 students leaving the district that we know about for next school year. How does that compare with a quote normal year?
That's a great question, Ann. And of the 2/3 of the number that was reported, I believe 2/3 of those those students have either moved out of the district or plan to move out of the district in terms of a physical move, if I recall correctly. And I'll turn it over to staff to be able to walk the board through if I'm incorrect.
I believe that's correct. This is Harmony, Communications Manager for the district. I also know we have Chris Bailey here with us from technology who pulled together all this. Chris, do you mind filling us in a little bit more on the numbers?
Yeah, I guess briefly I can just validate what Dr. Balderas shared, that roughly 2/3 of the respondents that indicated they will not be attending in the school district next year. It's either because they've already moved out of our service area or that they intend to do so. Of the remainder, it was those options that you have seen in the past, either homeschool or another non-Edmonds school program. As far as how it compares to a typical year, that's something that Dr. Balderas had asked for. I've been working with Lydia to try to explore how we can capture that in a way that's meaningful. So that's something we'll continue to work on. Circle back with you on.
I'd like to add also that number doesn't take into consideration all the move-ins that will happen over the summer. So there's that number could evolve a little bit as well.
One quick thing on the kind of the community feedback. I know that still when I talk to people, it doesn't happen as often now, but the distinction between remote learning and what in-person means, some people still are under the assumption that like remote learning means what we've been doing this year, which it absolutely does not mean. And I think like I understand kind of where the confusion comes from, because I know that like even among staff that wasn't really as clear in the beginning, and it was buried in the email, and we all know that at this point everyone is emailed out and technology out, if that's even the right word. So that anything that we can do to clarify that, because I know the intent form is going out again in August to families, but if people don't know what remote learning versus the in-person means, and the fact that remote learning is absolutely not connected to your school, then that isn't going to really change the intent survey. So I think better communication on what e-learning and what that remote learning really looks like, and then also communicating that that remote learning is nothing like what we've seen this year, where it's associated with school, is really important, because I think that might change a few of the intent answers. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you, Ratika. This is Chris Bailey, the Technology Director again. I just want to say, I know that I've worked in partnership with Harmony to try to ensure that we are communicating in as many ways as we can, in ways that will be clearly understood by the community, but we welcome any feedback that you or other members of the board may have on how we can ensure that we're doing that in a way that will be easily understood. I know that we've got some plans in place for the August communication already, but certainly want to make sure that it's crystal clear to our families and our students what they're committing to.
As we think
Go ahead.
about the kids who, I'm sorry, as we think about the kids who are going to be the move-ins, I'm wondering for new kindergarten kids as well as new kids moving in, are they to register in person at their schools? I know there was a time that they were in the past that they went to the district office. I'm just wondering how do they go about registering? So how do we as a district find out as well as being able to give them the information they need?
That's a great question, Dr. Kadams. And the good news is it's all online. Online enrollment. I mean, there are paper forms available for families as well, but it's very exciting. I know in the world that we've been living in for the last 15 months, most of us are used to doing everything online. So we're hopeful that it makes it easier for families to be able to do that. So yeah, there's links to that on our website. We shared that as well in our newsletter that went out in April or March, a link to it as well for enrollment. So trying to get people excited about this digital option for enrollment.
I'll just add to what Harmony shared that we also revised our new student online enrollment process to incorporate the intent form questions so that families that didn't get an opportunity to provide their intent through our process that wrapped up at the end of last month will be able to provide their intent through that new student online enrollment process online or through their school if they're going through the paper process that Harmony described.
That's great. And if people don't have internet access, but they call the school, or is there like a phone number that they can reach to, I mean, is there another way to do it or in other languages as well?
Absolutely. So we'll work with families. I know in July schools, and maybe Helen can, Dr. Jung can add, but I know in July schools are closed, but the district office we are operating. And so we'll be able to support. But Helen, did you want to add anything?
No, I think you added what I wanted to add. So that's perfect. Thank you, Harmony. And our families were directed to call their schools. We felt that families connect to their neighborhood schools more than central office, and the office staff more welcoming and understanding and all of that. So families are more than welcome to reach out to the office staff and they will direct them. So very excited about the online forms. And there are paper copies. It takes time to completely go over all online. So knowing that this is transition, so we welcome also the paper copies.
I was wondering if maybe next time we have a report on students choosing remote versus coming back into the buildings, if we could have that disaggregated as we did for students this year. So we could see, for instance, Asian American, African American, and so forth. Because we saw a little bit of difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I will work with the team to get that information with the hopes to include it in a future board update from Dr. Balderas.
Thank you. Any other questions, board? Okay, thank you for this report. Are we finished with this report? Okay, thank you. Next, we have our business and finance report.
Or to Lydia Selly, who's going to provide us our monthly report here for April. Thank you.
Good evening. And Sherelle, if you could turn to the next page. So we're reporting on April this evening, and this is a time of year that we start using a lot of the current year data to help inform the 21-22 budget, which is happening at the same time. So looking at the general fund at a high level, we started the year at 8.3 million increased fund balance over the previous year. Currently, we're down about a $6.1 million increase. So just a slight reduction of 2.2, which is much better than our original projections. So the general fund is holding strong. Wanted to point out on the ASB fund that the ending fund balance for April is basically identical to the year before, even though revenues and expenses are substantially less. On the capital projects fund, you'll see in revenue, we're at 140% received compared to budget. And that is predominantly due to the land sale that we had in April. On the debt service fund, the remaining expenses are the interest payment that is due in June, and then that will pretty much wrap it up for the debt service fund for the year. On the transportation vehicle fund expenditures, we did purchase 6 small buses before this, at the start of the year, and we have held off on purchasing some of the larger buses that we intended because Sound Transit is on our site installing 3 pillars for light rail. So, and all our buses that are normally in the back of the facility are in front. So as Sound Transit starts completing their work, we can identify, we'll be reconfiguring the back lot a bit and getting that in place in order to house more buses on our site. Okay, next page. So a quick overview on this page. Wanted to point out in state special purpose, the legislature concluded and we're notified that we will be receiving additional transportation funds, which is being called a transportation stabilization funding, since the state recognized that ridership is very, very low compared to past years, but that many of the expenses still remain. So instead of just funding us on ridership, they're stabilizing our funding, and that will start with the new state fiscal year, July 1st. So our intent is that transportation will not need to utilize any other general funds in the district. So they will be funded at 100%, which is great news. In expenditures, in benefits, last year we were notified by the ESD that we are a part of the unemployment pool. And since unemployment has been higher in the region, we had a special assessment. We paid half the assessment this year. It was designated in last year's fund balance for this purpose. They have notified us that some of the bills perhaps are delayed. They will reevaluate, and our second assessment may not occur until 21-22. So if not spent this year, we will keep that set aside in fund balance where it's at in order to pay the bill next fall. Okay, next page. So if we look at the bar charts at the top, please. I'm sorry, not the line graphs, but the pies.
Lydia, this is Nancy. Could I interrupt with a question on what you just were talking about?
Yes.
I'm curious, how much is that we're being assessed for as to be part of the unemployment pool?
It was almost 2.7 million. So we have paid
the half that we paid, or the total?
The total. So half, just over 1.3 million. So either you will see, again, that will stay in fund balance or it will get expended this year. But it's was set aside a year ago for this purpose.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So total revenues, based on trends, we were projecting that we'd be at, just under 64%, and we're just a hair over 64%. So that's really good news. Local sources, we're at 72.44, sorry, new glasses. The projections would have us at 74.7, and that is all because of our local fines and fees are very, very low, which is just fine because of remote learning. So that's not concerning. State revenues are actually just a little bit above where the graphs would show us to be. And then federal sources are considerably higher, and that is all because of ESSER funding. When we did the budget a year ago, certainly we knew about ESSER 1, but didn't know about ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 that were forthcoming. Okay, next slide. So again, it's the time of the year that we really start studying the expected ending fund balance and determining what categories those will land in. So this chart shows us targeting at about 7%. And of that 7%, some of those dollars will be assigned, one for the unemployment pool, schools carryover, our risk set aside, inventory. And we're coming in above our minimum 4% and probably under 5%. So between the 4 and 5% range, which is really healthy. Next slide. So as of April, our fund balance projection is coming in just at about 25.5 million. So well above 18-19, slightly below 19-20 as expected. If we don't play that unemployment assessment this year, fund balance will go up, but it will contain a portion to be paid for this fall. So continuing to increase ever so slightly. And some of that is ESSER and some of that is food service again. Next slide. So I hate to see the drop in March and April. The good news is May is identical. So I think we have finally flattened out and have stabilized for the balance of this school year. And of course, as we've talked about in reentry, we're assessing the impacts of both remote learning and students who, maybe the 1/3 of students who have indicated that they're leaving and how that could be offset by new students moving in. So we're keeping an eye on that. And if there's no questions, that is all I have for the April report.
Any questions, comments? Thank you, Lydia. Next we have, let me find what I'm doing. Next, we will now recess the regular meeting and open a public hearing to accept testimony regarding resolution number 21-23. This is a resolution of the Board of Directors of Edmonds School District, number 15, authorizing the sale, issuance, and delivery of not to exceed $20 million principal amount of the district's limited general obligation bond to provide money for the acquisition, construction, and installation of improvements for instruction, classroom and support services, and so forth. Tonight's public hearing is for the Board of Directors to accept testimony regarding resolution 21-23. Because we are still meeting remotely, we have invited and accepted testimony, written testimony, and I believe it's the case that we did not receive any testimony on the resolution, and that holds. That's still true, right?
That's That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Seeing that there is no testimony concerning this matter, the public hearing is now formally closed. And now I will reconvene the regular business meeting. Our next item is unfinished business. First, our only unfinished business is a second reading to adopt policy 4218, the Family Language Access Plan. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve.
I second it. It's Nancy.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt policy 4218, the Family Language Access Plan. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor of adopting policy 4218, Family Language Access Plan, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The motion passes. Next, we have new business. Our first item is a first reading, no action on adopting the iReady math assessment system. Is there any discussion? And we had a report last time we met, May 25th, and all of the items from the report are attached for the public. Is there any discussion?
I have some comments that are mostly repetitive of questions and comments I made at the report at, I think it was last week's or 2 weeks ago, some Tuesday, some random Tuesday. So, I've said this before, that my main concern has to do with my belief, more than my belief, my understanding that this assessment is not developmentally appropriate for kindergarten, in that it's a multiple choice online test, that kindergartners are most likely not to understand what they're doing, and it is not something that is likely to gather valid information for most of our kids, particularly our low-income kids and our kids of color, who come in less ready on technology than some of the more privileged children. And for a number of other reasons, I am very concerned about requiring kindergartners to take this assessment. I think it's possible to meet the requirements for OSPI in more developmentally appropriate ways, in ways that are currently happening in the district. For example, in terms of a dyslexia screen, which we're required to give, my understanding is that the district and staff have been giving and I think it's called a cadence dyslexia screen, which I've heard from a number of people is quite appropriate. Its purpose is to do a dyslexia screen, which the iReady test is not designed for that. People are comfortable doing it, and it seems to be working well. Secondly, in terms of getting progress on kids over the year that's developmentally appropriate, I would suggest focusing on the use of the TS Gold assessment that's part of WA Kids, which is given to all kindergartners when they enter in the fall, and then simply choosing the most appropriate subtests to do in winter and spring on those kids who are not kindergarten ready. So for those who are kindergarten ready, that's great. For those who aren't, they should be followed up. Since the purpose of this assessment and our assessment system is to identify kids who need special interventions, we want to be giving this assessment. We want to be giving an assessment that we believe will give us valid information so that the interventions we choose and the data that is recorded for each child is valid, so we don't have invalid data following kids through their school career. that if, for example, the teachers were asked to, the kindergarten teachers, and I'm just talking about kindergarten right now, continue what they do with WA Kids in the fall and for the winter and spring, continue to test those kids who are not kindergarten ready at each of the following data points on perhaps language and math, or literacy, language and math, and maybe adding cognition, the things that are most appropriate for the interventions that we're doing. And allowing kindergarten teachers to use iReady, particularly the instructional piece, as they see fit. One of the concerns I have is that we have not been given the data that we had asked for last year, and it wasn't part of the 950-page report that we got, which is disaggregating the teacher survey data by grade level, the family survey data by grade level, and the student data by grade level, so that we can see what do the kindergarten teachers really think in terms of the usefulness of this assessment for their instruction, because that is the most important piece. We have received a lot of input from kindergarten teachers saying that they don't think iReady is useful for them as an assessment. So I'd love to see that data. I'm not ready to make a decision, and I realize tonight we don't have to vote on it, but the next time it comes up, we will. And I wouldn't be prepared to do that without hearing from our kindergarten teachers in a systematic way, and from our kindergarten families, to know what do they think of this. I'd love to see a survey given to the kindergarten teachers saying which would they prefer and what would be more useful to them. I know that Dr. Baumgartner mentioned at the last meeting that the district isn't poised to do the WA Kids report, the report card. And I understand that there's a lot of work to set up Skyward and that kind of thing, but this could be leading toward that and getting teachers ready to do it, and having them gather information that really is useful for identifying what interventions matter the most for these kids. So for me, in terms of this recommendation, that's a real sticking point, is the requiring kindergarten teachers to give it. I would also love to get information about the usefulness of the assessment, of the iReady assessment, for gifted kids and for kids in the 7th, 8th, 9th grades that were identified, well, 7th and 8th grade, that were identified for higher level math, for algebra and geometry. Do those teachers really find that useful? Because they've already been given a lot of assessments. They know where the kids are, and they're giving them very course specific assessments to keep track of how those kids are doing. So I would ask about that at the higher end, but my main concern is at kindergarten. I also have a concern at 1 and 2, but I don't know that we have good alternatives for them, whereas I think at kindergarten that we do. So I appreciate your listening, and I'd love to see that data before we have to vote on it.
Well, we have those data, and we'll provide those for you in the Friday memo. This is a different question than we've been asking all along, and we have involved our kindergarten teachers in the process. And so it's only at this stage that we're hearing that this is a concern at a level that's come up to this point. We don't agree that there are the developmental concerns with the assessment, and we're happy to provide an opportunity for board directors to learn more about the kindergarten assessment, perhaps actually see what it looks like and what the interaction looks like. It is not the ITBS sit down and fill out bubbles. It's a pretty as tactile experiences as you could have as an online assessment. So I just don't want that message out there without a little more context. The solutions you raise are definitely ones to consider, but those are not the things that we've considered at this point. And so, we're happy to provide those data and continue looking at this issue.
I really appreciate that. And I certainly know that this is not the ITBS. On the other hand, we did hear that the main issue from teachers throughout the survey responses was the length of time that it takes to take. So one of the concerns, obviously, is to have 5-year-old kids sitting, being frustrated, spending a lot of time trying to make sense of what they're being asked to do. And, you know, it develops early that one self-concept about taking tests, because this is clearly a test, whereas kids don't even know they're being assessed. That if they don't do well, and maybe they won't do well because not because they don't know the math, but because they don't really understand what they're doing on the computer. It very early on builds this concept of I'm not good at math or I'm not good at test taking. And if there are more appropriate ways to do this for kindergartners and to avoid some of those pitfalls, they can be harmful for kids in the long run. Let's do it. Let's be student-centered and let's really think about ways that we can do what's best at the early childhood levels.
This is Anne. I noticed in the report, you list Everett, Evergreen, North Shore, Shoreline, Tacoma, and the Vancouver school districts as using iReady. Do all those districts use iReady K-8 or certainly if we're talking kindergarten, do they use them for the kindergartners? And if so, have you discussed with them their experience I'm assuming that they've had iReady for at least a year or more, what their experience has been in the assessing of younger grade students. Because if they've already gone through this, I just think it would behoove us to learn from their experience.
So if I'm thinking about the same table, Director McMurray, that you're referring to, I believe it shows on there as well the grade levels that it's utilized in those schools, and if not, I can get that.
It's table 3 on page 11 is the one that I'm looking at, and it says the school district and then district-wide common math assessment system on the right, and it just, for example, Clover Park is MAP and STAR. Edmonds, we don't have one. Okay. Everett is iReady, Evergreen's iReady, Marysville is STAR, Mukilteo is STAR, et cetera, et cetera. That's the one that I'm looking at.
Okay, thanks.
And so,
yeah, so I can provide the chart that also shows the information by grade level within those school districts, and different school districts do require the assessment in varying ranges of grades. Certainly not all of them utilize iReady, in particular for kindergarten. And as far as talking specifically with school districts about their experiences with implementing kindergarten iReady, we have not had extremely in-depth conversations specific to that question. But with our friends and colleagues in Everett, Shoreline, and North Shore, all utilizing iReady as their diagnostic assessment system, we are certainly in contact throughout the school year to learn from each other about what has in general been going well and what hasn't. And also just to be clear, I personally am not really here to defend iReady in and of itself. Really what I'm here is to defend the decision made over the past couple of years by the task force and the steering committee that did quite extensive and thorough research and planning throughout this process. And so really what I'm putting forward is the recommendations that they've developed throughout this time, throughout the process.
Yeah, it would be helpful to know of the districts that around us that are, it was, the large districts around us in the state that are using this, what grade levels they're actually using it at. And if they're not using it at the younger grades, it'd be interesting to know why.
Everett is using it. I've been in correspondence with the superintendent today, Ian Salzman. They're in grade 1 through 8 right now, and they're going to include kindergarten next year, per his text message to me this afternoon.
We can certainly get answers to those questions in time over the next week, but understand that this was not a concern that we were grappling with through the process. This is something that has been entered into the conversation at this late stage. So, which is not to say, excuse me.
I'm sorry. I have to disagree with you. Last year when we were discussing this, it was the key issue that we talked about was, were we going to require it at kindergarten, first and second? This is not the first time that this question has been brought. I can look back at my notes. We talked about it a great deal, and it should have been a question that I think you all knew was of concern to us, because originally last year you wanted to require it. And as a board, we asked for it not to be required. So, and specifically for the outlier grade levels. So I'm sorry, but I need to disagree with that statement.
Well, understand that my takeaway from that was the question was requiring it for any, and we ultimately landed that we didn't require it for any of our grade levels. We made it optional. And so I apologize if I don't remember that detail as well.
So I look forward to receiving additional information, particularly related to the surrounding districts. And as we've, Dr. Balladares, thank you for letting us know about Everett starting to use it on kindergarten. And we'll get that information the next week. Thanks.
So let me add, I have a contact who works in the assessment office in Everett, and just had texted her, what is it used? And the answer was, it's all subject to bargaining still, but we've never required math at kindergarten. She doesn't say anything about next year.
Well, if we do receive, I mean, I'm wondering where we go from here, because even if we do receive the information between now and the second reading, what are we, what are we gearing up to do? I still am pretty compelled by the bulk of the report. And I didn't read, I admit I didn't read all 1,000 pages, but I read the executive summary, the first 25 or so. I'm compelled that this will help our district. I don't recall personally having an issue with the higher grades, kids by that age, we were hearing some good things, I remember, from the committee about, that some of our secondary teachers were pretty excited about this. So I don't recall having any concern about that. But if we determine that this is, not adequate for kindergarten, is that a potential way forward with this? For me, I'm concerned that we don't have a good robust system of formative assessment in our district. We just don't, and we haven't for a long time. It's not going to be the magic, the magic bullet that improves our grad rates, but it certainly seems like an important one. So I'd like to see something happen, especially after we've had what I thought was a pretty setting aside kindergarten, in the early grades, the report was pretty compelling to me that this was a good direction, or better than the alternative. So what are, I'm asking the board, I guess, what are our possible ways forward? Just because I think that the disaggregated data, the data by grade is not going to change much. It's still going, you know, we're still going to see that there's a reason for concern, say, or some of us will feel like there's a reason for concern in kindergarten. So what next?
So Deborah, I'll be really clear to clarify. I'm fine with the rest of the recommendation. I'm simply unhappy with requiring it at kindergarten. There are other pieces that do potentially bother me, but mostly from the information given by our folks, that it seems that, you know, I definitely think like grades 3 through 7 meets a great need. It's not the be all and end all. And I do hope the district really does a lot of professional development on real formative assessment and it's classroom based. But that being said, I don't have a problem with the rest of the recommendation. My whole problem is with requiring it at kindergarten, because I've spent a lot of time doing early childhood assessment and it's simply not best practice.
Well, Deborah, yeah, I agree with you that I think it's a system we need to put into place. If there are problems with parts of how it's implemented, I think that's kind of a separate subject than approving whether we should have the system in our district. The way it is worded now, it'll be implemented in all grades. I think that is fine, because anytime you implement a new system into an established system as our district, there are issues with it. And when you implement, you find what the issues are, and then you address those issues. And if we implement it in kindergarten and it actually is very difficult and it's not working, our kindergarten teachers will tell us. And it's what we do in the district. We react to things and correct them when they need correction. So I'm all for implementing the program and then massaging it and changing it where necessary to make it work correctly.
But we do have information from our kindergarten teachers. We had a good number of them, I believe, in this pilot. So let's hear from them. Let's see their survey results and their comments separate from the others, because we don't really need to be asking kindergarten teachers in other districts, nor do we have to wait another year. You have done a very comprehensive job, guys, over this 3 years of slowly building this in and getting it information from various people. I'm just asking to see, because a lot of kindergarten teachers have come forward to me and expressed that they felt they weren't heard. They were on committees, they didn't feel like they were being heard, and that they felt like because they were the minority and in a grade level that is different in a lot of ways than other grade levels, that anyway, the point being, I think we have this information. I think, Rob, you said you would be able to get it to us. So I don't know that we need to wait. I think we have it. We just haven't been given it.
We have those data. We were given the questions at 3:30 today, specific, and we were not prepared to incorporate those into the report. So we'll get those specific to what the kindergarten teachers did. So we do have those data, and we'll get them to you. You will find that there is support among kindergarten teachers for it, and there are people that feel strongly against it. It's fairly split on some of the questions. Some of the questions, it's more positive than others. There are comments. We heard from teachers at most of our elementary schools. We did not get participation from every single teacher, but if I'm correct, Brandon, we had 42 kindergarten teachers that responded to the survey, and that's not a terrible number, particularly when we look at representation from all of our schools. So we'll have those data for you, and you'll be able to dig into them. They also include comments.
I really appreciate that. I'm also really pretty sure that not only did we talk about this last year, but last week when we had this report, I specifically asked to see that data disaggregated, and I think I put it in an email. So,
My
you know,
understanding was that it was in the report, so I apologize for that. That's me not following through. I made the assumption that it was disaggregated in those ways. That was my recollection for the report.
I appreciate that then. I actually spent 5 hours reading the report on an airplane ride. So what else do you do on an airplane ride, right? But that was a piece that I didn't understand why it wasn't disaggregated. So I appreciate that you'll be getting that to us.
Go ahead. Are there other comments, questions?
Well, just to the question on what do we do next? Well, we discuss, we're in the first reading. A lot of work's been done. There's still questions. We're the school board. And so, you know, we'll have the second reading. And if it's on the agenda, we'll discuss and make some decisions then. But remember, you know, we are the body that makes the policy decisions. And so if there are changes that need to be made, we discuss them. If we need to have an option for the whole board to be really comfortable on adopting iReady, it's like, is there an option to make it optional for kindergarten? And what would that impact be? I mean, these are kind of questions, you know, that I think we need to discuss. And it's not the first time that the concern over kindergartens come up. So we'll continue discussing between now and the next meeting, or get some information and think about how that may change a position or what's best for the kids in the district, right? For all of our students. So that's how you were asking, what do we do now? We keep discussing. I mean, this is what the first reading's for, so we can bring up these questions. Have not been.
I was mostly asking to invite these kinds of solutions, not to
okay. Well, no,
not to stop people from talking.
So. No, I think it's a discussion is healthy, making sure that that we as policy decision makers are fully informed and all of the questions are answered, no matter how long it takes. So I think we're almost there.
Yeah, and for me, I just like to know if we have surrounding districts that are similar in size to us, similar in demographics, that have been using this system a while. It's interesting to me to know what grade levels they're using, and because it's possible. I mean, I know people in Edmonds have great ideas, but it's also possible that somebody down in Vancouver or Tacoma or somewhere else that have done this a while might have something valuable to add along Gary's point that if we implement and we find that there are bumps along the way, it would be nice to know and to be able to gain the experience of other districts who've been doing this longer, so that we could perhaps arrive at a solution earlier than if we just kind of stayed in a silo in Edmonds and hope that we'd come up with the great idea. I happen to believe that the educators across the state might be able, if there's something we're struggling with, perhaps they've struggled with it too, and it might have a good idea that we could possibly gain from. So that was my interest in knowing kind of what other districts have done and what's the grade span that they've been using for iReady.
Okay, oh, please go ahead.
Thanks, President Kilgore. I wanted to make clear here, and it's in line with Brandon's comments. Our task was to address the lack of a common across the system set of assessments, and that was the task. And so we are not of the mind that kindergarten has to do iReady as the only means of assessing student learning. And so, this is the proposal that we're putting forth. That represents the work of the team. And, as I indicated last time, we fully expect to analyze the full implementation of this product next year, and certainly would be looking very, very closely at whether or not the concerns about kindergarten are to the extent that we're being told by several of our teachers. We are open to looking at different things, and as Director Noble said, we will certainly evaluate. This was an important step for our system to take. We believe that these assessments will be valuable, and the job that we do supporting teachers in using those data is critical. And all of this will support a successful implementation. If in fact kindergarten needs to go a different path, Brandon and I's discussions about revisiting the kindergarten pilot, the idea that we were looking at right when the pandemic hit, which was replacing the kindergarten report card with the WAKIDS assessment. We think that is a best practice. We think that is a good way to go. But what we don't have confidence in is that iReady couldn't remain part of the full assessment package, even at kindergarten. And so those are questions that we still have and would be important things for us to evaluate as we move forward. So just hoping to round this out, like, we're not putting a flag in the ground about kindergarten being part of this, but in terms of what we've been trying to accomplish by addressing this as system-wide, as getting a data system that we can use across K-8 and in some spots in high school, that's been the charge. And so we will evaluate and make modifications as we move forward with this.
Okay. So I think we have two requests for information. One is Director Kadam's request for data broken out by grade, and the other is some information from surrounding districts about which grades they use this for, and if they do use it for kindergarten, ask them a question about how that's working out for them. If and that would be helpful. So let's move along. Thank you all for your thoughtful contribution to the discussion. Okay. Where am I? Next, we have a single reading to approve resolution. I apologize. Approve resolution 21-23, the authorization and delegation of limited general obligation bonds. Do I hear a motion?
This is Ann, move to approve.
This is Karen, I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 21-23. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and call for a vote, a roll call vote, please. And this is to approve resolution 21-23.
Director McMurray,
Aye.
Director Noble,
Aye.
Director Chase,
Aye.
Director Kadams,
Aye.
Director Kilgore,
Aye. And the motion passes and the resolution 21-23 is approved. Next, we have a single reading to approve the OSPI study and survey for school construction assistance program. Do I hear a motion?
This is
I
Ann,
move-
move to approve.
I'll
I
second
second.
it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the OSPI study and survey for school construction assistance program. Is there any discussion? I always find this to be a very interesting report myself. As you can see our whole physical plant inventory in one place and see what condition it's in. And I appreciate the work that goes into it. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and call for a roll call vote to approve the OSPI study and survey for school construction assistance program.
Director McMurray,
Aye.
Director Noble,
Aye.
Director Chase,
Aye.
Director Kadams,
Aye.
Director Kilgore,
Aye. The motion passes and the study and survey is approved. Next, we have a single reading to approve project award for school, Spruce Elementary Phase 2 relocatable classrooms project. Oh, am I looking at the wrong one? I had two agendas open. Oh, no, I am. I apologize. Yes.
Yeah, you're good, Deborah.
I'm sorry, I had a couple of agendas from prior nights open, trying to find things. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve. This is Nancy.
This
I
is Ann, second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the project award for Spruce Elementary Phase 2. Is there any discussion? I'm sorry, this is Phase 2, the relocatable classrooms project. Hearing none, I'd like to ask for a roll call vote, please.
Director McMurray,
Aye.
Director Noble,
Aye.
Director Chase.
Aye.
Director Kadams,
Aye.
Director Kilgore,
Aye, and the motion passes and the project award is approved. Next, we have a single reading to approve Resolution 21-20, Guaranteed Maximum Price Amendment for Spruce Elementary Phase 2 Addition and Replacement Project, an increase in total project budget. Is there a motion?
This is Ann, move to approve.
I
I'll
second.
second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution, gosh, where am I? I keep losing my, I'm sorry, 21-20. Is there any discussion?
Well, this is Ann. I was just thinking about how great it is that we even have these on our agenda because of the support of our voters for the levy. And, I think about Spruce and having just half of, their first phase, but not the second, and then being able to look forward to having their school completely remodeled and what that's going to mean for those kids. So it just gives me a reason to be grateful again for the support of our voters.
I have to tell you, I spoke with two parents of incoming kindergarten students at Spruce just last week who are very excited about the new facilities that I guess their kids will be able to use in first grade. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to call for a roll call vote, please.
Director McMurray,
Aye.
Director Noble,
Aye.
Director Chase,
Aye.
Director Kadams,
Aye.
Director Kilgore,
Aye, and the motion passes and resolution 21-20 is approved. Next, we have a single, we have changed this. It is a first reading. No action to approve the high school general chemistry and science materials adoption recommendations. That's our amendment that we had in the beginning of the night. Is there any discussion?
I'm really glad to see this going forward and us upgrading the high school science in these areas. I think it's really important and essential that we keep our science curriculum as up to date as possible because it's changing so quickly. And I know that, the adoption cycle had gotten sort of pushed back due to budget things in the past. So it's good to know that our teachers and our kids are going to be given the resources that they need.
I'd like to just share that normally we provide a board report on the first reading for any adoptions. We had a little mix up with our prep for getting things on the agenda. And so we'll include that report. The materials are here included in the agenda, but we'll have a actual live report on this before second reading at our upcoming general meeting.
Thank you. And I was, again, you know, I'm happy to have more time to review the report. I did take a look at it, and what is really fascinating to me is how not just we, but I guess the entire science education community is sort of clarifying sort of how to teach around the NGSS standards, which are so interesting to me. It's really interesting and exciting, but kind of, to me, it seemed a new way of doing standards, because they're so interrelated and cross-cutting, I guess is the word. So I'm just pleased to see a curriculum, you know, a book that follows those standards. Other comments? Okay, well, we'll look forward to hearing more. Thank you. Next, our final item is a first reading, no action. Approve revised policy 5202, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration mandated drug and alcohol testing program. Sorry, that was a mouthful. Is there, do we hear a motion?
First reading. First reading.
Oh,
thank you. I'm sorry. You're right. This is a first reading. Is there any discussion?
I had a question on it. I just wondered how marijuana fits into this, because it's a federally controlled substance, but not a Washington controlled substance, although it's federal regulations. But then it has the exception for controlled substance that is medically issued by a medical practitioner. So how does marijuana fit in with this policy, both regular marijuana and medically approved marijuana?
So again, the federal rules, this follows the federal rules. So I double checked with WASDA that the marijuana section had not changed. And we have not encountered the situation where a prescribing physician has prescribed medical marijuana. So right now we're considering it not allowed. And it could be that the first situation makes us consult with legal.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else? Okay, let's move on. Love to hear from our students again. Can we have a gallery view? You get one more chance to weigh in. Isabel.
Hi, yeah, I'd like to say thank you again to the board members and Dr. Balderas and staff for giving me the privilege of being on the student advisory to the board. It's just been incredible. And on the student presentation about the garden, I just think that it's really wonderful that these kids are being exposed to this experience that they might not have access to at home. And who knows, maybe it'll spark an interest in a career possibility in the future for them, which I think is amazing. And also I want to say that I have loved seeing how much Pride Month is being celebrated. and how it has really like the improvement on how much the LGBTQ plus community is being respected and celebrated throughout these years. Thank you.
Sorry, Kai.
It was wonderful to see how well spoken some of these elementary schoolers are. It was really took me by surprise, to be honest. And also, I just wanted to thank you all for making this year's class of 2021 end of the year great, because, you know, prom has been a go for many schools and in-person graduation, which is fantastic. So thank you for all the hard work you've done this year. And I can't wait to hear about what the Edmonds School District does next. So thank you.
Ritika?
First of all, as my fellow student advisors said, thank you so much to the school board for this opportunity this year. It's been a crazy year, and having this platform to provide the student voice and to also see kind of what's going on in terms of the decisions being made and the thought process behind that has been really enlightening. And I'm glad that, you know, as crazy as this year was, that we were still able to have that experience. The presentations kind of reflect how important it is for these electives and these extracurricular activities to be supported by the district, because those are the things that ultimately shape our students, both at the elementary, secondary, and the secondary level. Those are the things that, you know, we will remember, maybe sometimes even.
You just muted yourself, maybe. Ritika.
She's not muted. I think maybe it froze.
As we
for
can
her.
possibly make it. I was a little bit surprised
There you
when
go.
I was hearing conversations around that before, like with people thinking that it was remote learning, meaning like that they were able to, you know, zoom in, and I don't think any of our teachers want to go through that again. But overall, just thank you for everything, and looking forward to seeing, hopefully sooner rather than later, what next year's plan is going to look like, and how we're going to navigate that.
Thank you. And I think our other students had to go do work. So I'll move on to our board members. Director Noble, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. I don't have many comments tonight. I want to again thank the student reps. I really meant it. They were a great set this year, and being able to participate so much, even though we were on Zoom, was fantastic. And thanks so much for the kids talking about their garden. it was really refreshing, and just to see how proud they were of their accomplishments. So thank you very much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Director McMurray.
Well, just again, thank you to the presenters, of course, the student advisors. You've just been great this year, just so helpful. And I just want to acknowledge the heavy lift that the district staff have been doing this year, even before the year began, having to switch what we were doing, not knowing sometimes from week to week what the conditions were going to be, what we needed to plan for. I know how weary so many people are when I talk to them, just in all kinds of jobs, and just as we get closer to what looks like the transition out of the pandemic, sometimes you all of a sudden realize how tired you are. And so I just want to commend staff and thank you for the effort, realizing, it's kind of the final push to get people graduated, but I am so looking forward to in-person graduations, to actually seeing kids walk across that stage in an unprecedented year, and recognizing the tremendous effort that it's taken of a system that has been stressed to the max to accomplish this, everybody involved. So just want to really acknowledge and say thank you.
Thank you. Director Chase.
I'm just going to echo the previous colleagues' comments that I'm very, very much looking forward to the graduations that are coming up. And I think that this district has demonstrated the resiliency in this time of the pandemic with the continually moving targets. And so it's great appreciation to all the work everyone's put into also.
Thank you. Director Kadam.
So I just want to thank the student advisors once again and say you've been an amazing source of information and help this year, and I wish we could have celebrated you in person. So know that our hearts are with you. I found the Chase Lake presentation to be wonderful. The kids doing real life projects like that is so important. You can see this will be something they remember forever. And I think their tribute to Beth Black, who was a model teacher in our district, was particularly special. I'd like to end by both thanking everybody who's expressed their support and their appreciation for us doing the resolution for Pride Month. We really appreciate your letting us know that this is very important to you. And for those who've been doing pushback in the community, I think what that does is underscore the need for education, of educating our students, our families, and our community about the science behind gender identity and gender orientation. And perhaps what we need to think about as a district is expanding our equity training. I know it's been mostly focused on race equity, which is very important, but maybe it's time we begin to think about ways to expand it to the other marginalized groups that we serve in our district. So I appreciate all of the input from the people who have been supportive and trying to create safe spaces for all of our kids.
Thank you, Director Kadams. And I agree with everyone. We've had some wonderful things to celebrate this year and tonight. And I'm so appreciative of our student advisors, and I wish you the best. I also want to address the social media responses to the district celebration of Pride. I didn't have a chance to see most of the harmful comments. And I realize I'm not talking to probably anybody, but at least will be recorded. But I didn't have a chance to see all the harmful comments, but and they may or may not have come from members of our own community. But I want to urge adults to think before you speak, because children are listening, reading, and watching. And when you post on social media, your thoughts are likely to find their way to some of our almost 20,000 students, and you're hurting them. Each of our students is unique and precious and deserves nothing but care, kindness, and protection. Transgender kids, queer kids, they exist. They're in our schools. Lesbian and gay parents, they are in our families. We have just a multitude of beautiful families, supportive parents, active parents, and they all deserve to be seen, heard, and celebrated. And I think every adult would agree that kids should not be harmed. I think even those who are expressing anger and ignorance to other adults, I don't think you're in it to hurt kids. So I would just urge you to think about who's looking, who's watching. And every time I'm going to be here for the kids, and I'm going to throw down for the kids. They all deserve everything that we have to give, each and every one of them. So thanks. I'll turn it over to Dr. Balderas.
So thank you for your comments, board. And as you stated, you know, of the 22,000 kids that we have in a normal year, you know, 53% of our kids are kids of color. We're almost 130 languages. And that's the asset that we have as a district. That is the asset that we have as a district, that we're such a diverse system that we provide an opportunity to have the educational engagement for all kids, no matter who they are. We have a moral obligation. We want all kids. And as the board has stated, is we, you know, we hold up and hold hands with each and every one of our kids, because we're only going to be more diverse and in such a variety of ways, which is such a beautiful thing for our district and our community. And just want to really appreciate your comment as a board tonight. And also, as Isabel, Kai, Ratika, Bandya, and Cerilia leave us for the summer, just again, great appreciation for what you've added to our system. As we get ready for, with the voice graduation, or 8 graduations next week, is hope to see many of you there, and I look forward to every one of those 8 graduations, because of the fact that we have kids crossing the stage and leaving our system with a certificate that with a diploma that they can always say, hey, they graduated from the Edmond School District. And also with the memories that this is such a difficult year that we know and understand, but the resilience of our kids, of our community, and of our families, it's just been incredible, absolutely incredible this past several months. And I wish all the very best as we close out the school year. We have 2 weeks left of school. Our faculty and everyone that works in our schools, but everyone also that supports our schools. Because again, it takes an entire team, and I really appreciate the board's vision as you've been able to help guide the district in terms of what we need to do this year. And that's with great appreciation. As I've stated to you individually, no one signed up to do this, but we've done this the best we can. And I believe we've done it as well as anyone else in the area. So just with great appreciation to all the staff that are on the call. I know there's a lot of black screens, but it's been a heavy lift by all, but we've done this heavy lift together. So thank you. I know we have some other presentations or some discussions later on. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Going back now. Our first, we are at discussion topics. Our first discussion topic is a continuation of the board meeting live streaming and archiving plan.
So thank you, board of directors. Want to just continue the discussion that we had earlier during a retreat with the board regarding what to do with our streaming for next year as we plan for September coming back into in-person. I know Chris Bailey's on the call as well as Harmony, and be able to have the discussion in terms of what we what the board would like staff to do in terms of what the experience to the end user, those being online next year, because we do want to continue to do that. I think that's been very valuable, as the board has expressed regarding the engagement of our board meetings. And again, just want to continue that discussion. And I have Chris and Harmony here to be able to maybe, if we could, maybe provide a background in terms of some options for the board, and then have the board maybe have a deliberation, please. So Chris, I don't know if you want to share some possible options for the board to consider.
Sure, absolutely. So Chris Bailey, Technology Director, wanted to start by just recapping the previous conversation know the board has had several conversations related to live streaming meetings over the course of the last several years. And I think that culminated in August or September with an update from communications on some different options for how that could be done long term. But we have leveraged Zoom and YouTube to get that done over the course of the pandemic. And the communications team and technology have partnered together to explore different options. We presented our recommendation at the May board retreat, and there were some questions related to ways that we might be able to pare back the proposal using the Swagit tool, which, as you recall, is used by Lake Washington School District, as well as more recently the City of Linwood. It's an automated system that includes multiple cameras, provides a very elegant and polished experience for the community members that are watching remotely. So we went back to the vendor and we asked them what ways we could consider to pare down the proposal. There were two ways that we could continue to work with them, again, to have a very professional and elegant output or live stream that would result in reduced cost. The first is in lieu of having a live transcriptionist that is essentially monitoring and encapsulating via text every spoken word. There's a newer product that they also offered that is not unlike what we've seen with Zoom, leveraging automation to pull down the spoken words and to include those as text. That option also includes having a person, I won't say a live person, but having a real person review those after the meeting to ensure that they are accurate. So they commit to at least 95% accuracy in the moment, and that they will refine to ensure it's 100% accurate after the fact. I don't want to like I lead you to think that this is exactly like what we've done, because what we've seen in other districts that leverage this capability is that it associates the spoken word with who said it, and it's much more refined than what we've seen via Zoom as far as the closed captioning goes. The other option that they provide is a post-meeting closed caption. It's a reduced cost. It requires less labor per meeting, as well as less hardware. The biggest concern that the communications and technology teams share is the lack of accessibility of our meetings if it's taking several days after a meeting is published or is live for that accessible closed captioning to be attached to it. So that is a less expensive option, but it's not one that we're comfortable recommending because our concerns about accessibility are much more significant with that option than with the 95% accuracy that Swagit commits to with the automated closed caption that they provide. Just as a brief side note, some of you may recall that we have been working with the Department of Ed's Office of Civil Rights over the last 4 or 5 years regarding ensuring our websites are fully accessible. That's a continuing effort of ours. We attempt in every website that we own and publish to adhere to WCAG 2.0 standards, which is a accessibility standard, and we are confident in Swagit's ability with either the live closed captioning or the automated closed captioning to adhere to that. We have real concerns about publishing live media without closed captioning, meaning going with the up to 4 days delayed option. So that said, those are the two alternatives that Swagit proposes. The third option, which we also have those accessibility concerns regarding, is leveraging something more akin to what you saw at the board retreat back in May, where we leveraged a single camera with a built-in microphone. I believe I provided an update via Dr. Balderas that provided some feedback from staff members that were watching that. I'm happy to pull that back up if you'd like as well. But there were concerns related to both the audio and the video of that experience. While it did meet the need at the time, we don't see it as one that can be appropriate when we're not in a pandemic emergency sort of situation. So it is not a recommendation. I believe that's the summary that you're looking for. If you have any questions, I'm happy to do my best to answer them.
This is Ann. Thanks for that, Chris. What's the cost differential on the two options you brought to us tonight?
One moment, please. I just need to find the right tab. So the original proposal that we shared with you was using a real-time human transcription service. And this is what we discussed back in May. The hardware cost for that proposal is $70,000. That's a one-time cost. It is a levy fund eligible expense, and the ongoing fee, which is essentially a maintenance for licensing in addition to the per hour meeting rate for both the video production as well as the transcription is $27,000 per year. The revised recommendation, which leverages the automated 95% accurate accessible transcription, is the same $70,000 hardware cost. I believe I misspoke at our board retreat. I was under the assumption that this new tier, which they had just kind of sent out brief marketing materials on, that it would allow us to scale back in hardware costs, and I was mistaken about that. So the hardware cost is unchanged. The annual maintenance fee reduces to $23,000 a year. The third option that Swagit proposes, which again is not a recommendation, but I did speak to briefly moments ago, which is to have a up to 4-day delay, does reduce hardware requirements to the tune of, if I'm recalling accurately, about $12,000 to $15,000. There's a reduction in a video encoder for that requirement. So a substantial hardware component is not needed if we're not doing the live or close to live transcription. I believe the annual maintenance fee is fairly similar regardless.
Thank you for that, Chris. I recall when we were discussing this at the study session or retreat that if we went through with the original proposal, we would only be able to use this equipment for board meetings. Is that correct? We wouldn't have the access to make it available for additional meetings that were going to be held in that space. Was that correct?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and that's something that I can continue to clarify. I think one of the best ways I can do that is to learn from some of our peer districts and how they use this equipment when it's not being used for Swagit. But we will have access to the hardware. So if we have a need to leverage, there will be a video mixer within the boardroom that can be leveraged by district staff as needed. I think the point of clarification though is the per meeting maintenance fee, if you will, includes an estimate for the duration of our meetings. So if, for example, the board decided that we're going to double our meeting length, which I don't think is in the cards today, but there would be a direct impact to the ongoing costs based on the number of hours we estimate we will be in meetings. So similarly, if we decided that we wanted to leverage the boardroom and to live stream other regular meetings aside from the board meeting, that would also be a cost incurred if we're leveraging Swagit to do that.
And is there flexibility? Because often our board meetings go longer, which is unplanned. So is there some flexibility into that meeting use, or will that just be an additional a la carte added on, like say we go an extra couple hours for the month of July?
Yeah, the way that it is quoted is based on an estimate that we provided. So I believe there will be the ability for us to modify that midstream. We'd be committing for a year at a rate, and then we would do a true up at the duration of that term.
Chris, thank you so much this is Nancy. Thank you so much for all this information and for doing all of this for us. You know how important this is for us to continue making this available to our public. It's been great. So when you talk about this, what you were just answering for Karen, it is the same thing that you said true for both of these two options, both the real time and the real-time transcription and then the automated transcription in terms of the increase in cost if our time goes up?
Yes, the annual maintenance fee includes a per hour rate for the video production service, essentially monitoring the streams, ensuring the appropriate camera is the one that's being displayed, including the names of the speakers below them, like you see on a news channel, that sort of work. There's a per hour fee for that work. And in addition, there's a per hour fee for the transcription service.
So my gut feeling to this is that there's very little difference in the cost. It's a $4,000 difference in terms of the maintenance fee. It seems to me that because that differential is relatively small, the real-time transcription seems a better option since it's not that much more costly. but I might be missing something in my thinking. And so I'd be interested in hearing the other people's, my colleagues' reactions.
I'd like to briefly respond, and then I'd welcome any other feedback that I might hear. Swagit, when I asked about other ways that we might be able to scale this offering or this recommendation back, they were actually very pleased to offer the what they called a AI-driven or a intelligent automated transcription as a proposal. The reason that they actually recommend it today over the live transcription is not because of cost, but actually because it's a quicker and much quicker transcription. If you've ever had closed caption on while you're watching a live news program, you probably have seen there's a delay. It can be 5 to 10 seconds, and then it'll quickly catch up. And then by the time it's caught up, there's a new body of text there, so you might have missed something. Whereas
You're right.
the
It's also tends to be fraught with errors.
That's true too. So all that to say, they recommend the automated actually in place of the other one after we had the follow-up conversation. So
Oh, that's really helpful to know. I switched what I said then.
I wasn't trying to get you to change your mind. But
No, that was very helpful additional information.
I would
totally-
also,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I totally agree with that. And I totally agree with your assessment of closed captioning versus automated captioning. Automated captioning that we have on right now is so much superior to live closed captioning on TV. I'm surprised they don't use it on TV more.
This is Ann. I like the AI option, because what I know is at my work, the technical improvements on voice recognition software is amazing, and so I believe that with the automated captioning, the way that the technology is going, it's 95% is great. I think it's going to get even better. And so I really do like that. That's I'm calling it the 95-100 option. Yeah, that's the one I like.
I have just one comment and one question. One comment is that if you want to see how this works, go look at one of the Linwood City Council meetings. It is kind of cool. They have the captions on the side and with the names, so you know who's talking, and it is kind of cool. But my question, I guess, just to confirm, you're saying that something virtually free, the YouTube video captioning, just really isn't adequate to, in terms of accessibility?
yeah, that's correct. When we talked about this briefly at the board retreat, but the lack of accuracy is a problem. I think the value add that Swagit performs is going back and validating, getting to that 100% if there are inaccuracies, and that is not a service that YouTube provides. So that's correct.
Okay.
So I don't believe this was before the board for a decision to be made. We did want to have the opportunity for the board to weigh in. So Dr. Balderas, unless there are any outstanding questions, it sounds like we will be proceeding with the recommendations for the AI-driven transcription services with Swagit.
I see thumbs up. So thank you, Chris and Harmony, for your work, and thank you for the board for having that discussion. Thank you for providing.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Next, we have a legislative update with Director Chase.
Thank you, Director Kilgore, and for everyone for hanging in there. I'm not sure how much over our board meeting time, as I'm just thinking about, we're talking about the legislative and this, how it's going to work with our new system. But be that as it may, this last meeting, I did cover quite a bit of the legislative things that are happening, but I want to bring a couple things first to everyone's attention. Is Thursday, June 10th, the Federal Relations Network, it has secured appointments with a number of our congressional representatives, and the link should be in your email to RSVP. These meetings are open to all school board directors, and thus far, I believe we have Senator Patty Murray, Congresswoman Jayapal. Let me take a look at the list. We have Susan Delbeni, Maria Cantwell. A number of these women and men that are representing us are going to be available to talk to us about their education priorities. And I think this is going to be really interesting. If you can attend any of these, we have half-hour blocks with each of them. And I'm actually really curious to hear more about the electrification of the school buses, which Rep. Larson mentioned a couple meetings at a different meeting. And then Patty Murray's office reached out to me with some information that I will share with you. I've not had a chance to review it as one of the priorities. So just think, we can ask her live this Thursday. So that link will be in your email. So this could be really exciting. The other things that are coming up is the legislative policy reviews are going to be once again this coming June 15th. I have not seen the updated report, so I don't have that to share with you, but there are a number of policies that that have been put forward that for either approval or recommend to be approval and added to our positions at our General Assembly, at our meeting that will be in November. So I will keep you updated as that meeting is next weekend. And then the final one on the 25th. For this past legislative session, which was one of the longer sessions that did end, many of our legislators who have given us reports say they kept their expectations really low, but they're really excited at what did get passed. In some of the research that some of the other associations have done, we did pass 335 bills. And so in a Zoom environment, that is really good, I think. However, it is the lowest number of bills for a 105-day session since at least 1983. So we do know that everyone's been very impacted by that. Of those bills, there were 100 that WASDA was tracking for education purposes. And of that, 34 of them passed and 66 did not. That does not mean that they will not come back up for consideration as we move forward. They're in broad categories, and there's a 17-page document that I shared after the last meeting, but I will do so again, that generally fall under education funding, equity-related bills, health and safety-related bills, professional learning, which includes training for us as school board members, and high school graduation-related bills as general categories. On the bills and boards, they have the descriptions, the timeline for implementation, and board policy impacts. So this is what's most interesting for us, and implications for budgeting, curriculum, and reporting. And so this 17-page document, at least it's not 900 pages, right? Has some thorough information on that. And there's a few that I'm just going to point out because in a variety of conversations, we've been discussing school counseling programs. And there is a bill that has just, that we have by December 1st, 2021, OSPI must develop and distribute a guidance for school districts in implementing a written plan for comprehensive school counseling programs. And I thought that was very interesting on some of the timelines because that one's coming right up. Excuse me, and that happens to be on page 17 of the report. There are a variety of them, and I'm just trying to pull up the impact. What I was really trying to do is go through the budget impacts, but I think Lydia has been quite up to date on that with a number of the transportation issues, and Gustavo also, or Dr. Balderas also on some of those that are impacting that our budget. Where we are and what I would like to do is talk about how we can more fully engage our legislative representatives off when they're not in session. We have set up a few meetings, but I would like this board to consider having an event where we invite our legislators and representatives. Particularly, I would like to invite Representative Ortiz Self, who is a high-ranking member in the House. I do know that we had some smaller group meetings with her, and we have another one coming up with Representative Davis. But I'd like us to think about doing something more formal with all 9 of them. Maybe not all at once, but a couple events. And just, I'm actually kind of interested in your thoughts on how we might do that as perhaps a breakfast or a Zoom event, similar to how we've been doing these joint board meetings with the foundations and our colleges. And I think that might be a more efficient way for us to develop these relationships, because honestly, some of these school districts around us that have really stronger relationships between their legislators and closer connections with the superintendents of the board are, they're very well informed, and they're more impactful on some of the testimony in Olympia. When I testified on a couple bills down there, and those that we had superintendents and school board members that have been working on these particular issues for quite a while, it was impactful. And so just any thoughts here? What do we think about trying to set up something maybe quarterly, or because one of the reasons is to have more than just 2 board members meet with someone, we need to have an open public meeting. And so I'd like to get that into, as we start thinking about the upcoming year calendar, how we can kind of bring that in. So
I like the idea of having a breakfast if we can get many of them in the room with us. Hopefully that opportunity will open up more, in the fall. One thing that I guess I heard from, can't think of her last name, Sarah in Shoreline, is that that they're doing, she's doing sort of more regular kind of tapping into her, monthly, even not the whole board, but, I don't know how they're doing it, but she was saying that they were trying to really develop kind of a long-term reminder with Jesse Salomon. And you could see that in the bills that he sponsored, that he had a pretty, he was listening to them, that they had specific asks, and that, I think she was talking about how they were having really frequent, maybe every month or 2, having, touching base with him.
She did
I don't know.
She did a really good job on follow-up after when we did meetings, and some good follow-up on regular phone calls. And so, and Zoom meetings with those legislators. So she did a really nice job on that. And we could try to do something like that. Some of that has to do with capacity, because we have 9 of them, right? It's just not, and so, and also the way it, for instance, in the 21st, Representative Ortiz Self is the go-to educator. And so,
right.
So as we have when we were actually able to talk with her in person with the whole entire delegation, her seatmates defer to her. And so that is just kind of makes it easier. We do have some, and that is actually who we had a meeting with Dr. Balderas with too. And I do think that that's an excellent idea.
I wonder if we could have, I hate to say it, but, have our pet legislator, like whether it's her, sometimes I think that, say Jesse is thinking about Shoreline and what's happening in Shoreline when he is legislating, and Lillian is thinking of Mukilteo a little bit more. Who is our pet legislator who's thinking about Edmonds?
Well, we remember that those legislators that serve on the committees. So Lillian Ortiz Self serves on the education committee. So along with Sharon Tomiko Santos. And so we have strong ties with Edmonds to them. However, she's not our legislator. However, they are the chairs of committees. So yes, we want to have our local support, but also we want to be developing relationships with those folks in leadership.
Right.
And so we have an opportunity to more fully inform the legislators in the 1st and the 32nd and the 21st of the specific needs to Edmonds. And so that's kind of what we're talking about right now. The reason I keep talking about Representative Ortiz self is because she is a chair of one of the committees, and I speak with her fairly regularly. But we have 9, and so I think we should be talking to all of them. So we need to think about how that's going to go, because that is something we need to do. And so how do we do that without asking staff to help, right? And making sure that we have the capacity to do that with all 9. And so that's why I think if we have a meeting, that we can start developing how that's going to work with all of us.
So if I may maybe provide a suggestion, I know that the breakfast has worked for me in the past, but also having a calendar of meeting dates and being able to have some staff and board meet with a variety of elected officials with a common agenda. But it starts off as Director Chase mentioned, what are the talking points? How do we share information and go back to the broader board? So maybe also a suggestion, I know the board's going to discuss this more tonight, but have Director Chase maybe meet with myself, Lydia Selly, and Harmony to develop an internal plan that we can help support the board with as well, because we would love to be part of that discussion and be able to support the board in this, because it's so important for us to do so.
That sounds like an ideal. So let's just get a time on our calendars that might work.
Thank you, and we'll do so quickly.
And I appreciate you cultivating these relationships. So.
Yeah, it's not just me, right? I mean, we have a full board here that we can all be reaching out and developing relationships and talking about those things that are impacting our district. And so getting the structure around it that like officially is a district, and then as things come up quickly, we'll have an ability to talk to the legislators. It's not just defined by a time that we're able to get them on Zoom when they're in Olympia. I mean, so I agree with you, actually.
Karen, I think what you're doing is great. And I think your ideas are really important for us. And working with Dr. Balderas and a few other key staff on setting up a plan, because I think it's important for the board to have these relationships and input, but it's important as a district, because we're a team. And so I appreciate Dr. Balderas stepping up and saying, let's sort of do this together. I feel like having a regular schedule, I don't know what it would be, but with the key people, with Lillian, it might be a problem doing a breakfast, because once school starts, she's back teaching. So I think she may be more available in the afternoon, but in whatever case it is, sort of figuring out of these 9 people, what are the key topics we would want to talk about with each group? Because I think there might be different agendas with each one, our local versus more general, or Lillian for education. I don't know, but I think what you're doing is great. And I really appreciate you taking on this leadership for us, because I think it's really important.
Well, you know what I really missed is one of my favorite things about this is going down to Olympia with students, honestly. And it is one of the most rewarding parts of this whole of being a legislative rep, is to go down there with students and advocate. And we haven't been able to do it for a while. So let's look at maybe 2022 is going to be the year.
Right on.
So check your June 10th calendar. It's fun to have these meetings, right? It's all on Zoom, right? So we should be able to, if you can jump in, I'll send the link again.
And we can just sit in. I assume I know they were having a planning meeting tonight, and obviously we're not there. So I'd be happy to try to attend if I'm available.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I won't have much to say this time.
Oh, you might. You'd be surprised.
And do we have a problem if we have if we have like 3 of us there when we're not really, I mean, do we have a quorum problem, public meeting problem?
Well, let's just make sure that all 3 of us are there at once. So we don't have to worry about it. RSVP to the meetings. I can always drop off so that, but we'll just double check.
Yeah, Nancy, sorry, I just
Yes,
want to say there's several different meetings, several different legislators to speak with. So maybe we can coordinate a little bit. Go ahead. Uh-oh.
Oh, Gary, looks like Gary froze. Or no, you there?
Oh, no. I was just saying that I don't think it's an issue. It's similar to going to a WASDA meeting. You're going to a meeting and yeah, you have your colleagues with you, but the meeting is not to make school district decisions. The meeting is to discuss things with colleagues. And that's not what the Public Meeting Act is supposedly designated to control.
I believe you're correct, Gary, but so there we go.
But check.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, meeting adjourned.